What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS 3 Raw TV. Boy, we have a pretty cool one tonight. So this video is really for two different types of people. The people that are on gear and people that are off gear. That's pretty much everybody. But anyways, it's got two different points of view, and I want to talk to you guys tonight specifically from experience. And this is not just my experience. This is experience from myself and many people throughout the years that I guess you could say this is like my own personal little meta study, because I ask these questions and I do try to get a lot of information about the topic we're going to talk about tonight. And that is, like, what does gear really do for you? And I think that most people will laugh at that. But I'm going to try to give you guys a little bit of insight, because when you are not on gear, you have one way of looking at it. Whether you ever thought about it, didn't think about it, are thinking about it, you have one way of looking at it. And when you're on gear, you have a different way of looking at it. And remember, you're the same person. So off gear and on gear, you have a different way of looking at it. Your opinion should change based on what you see. But I think a lot of people get so wrapped up in the actual, taking the gear and what it does and how you change and grow, that I think they don't really pay attention to how it works. Now, let me kind of go over it. So we'll start with the people that are not on gear, the natural guys, the natty guys or girls, whatever. So there's some people out there that are natural, and I thought the same thing back in the day. I thought taking gear, steroids, was cheating. Like, it's cheating. I don't need it. As a matter of fact, I was just telling the story the other day. I was so naive when I was younger that me and my training partner, Donnie, we were just huge bodybuilding fans, and we were teenagers, and we had never taken anything, and we hadn't planned on taking anything. And Dorian was my guy. Kevin Levroni was his guy. And we used to say, like, man, I think I can get to that level. I can look like Dorian and he can look like Kevin if we just kept training hard enough, stayed natural, stuck to our diets and rested and kept using progressive resistance and overload. Eventually, we would be able to get there and not have to cheat like they did. Now, listen to me. I know right now you're like, Jerry, what the fuck? I completely understand what you're thinking. I was 16 at the time, didn't understand how powerful steroids were, didn't even really understand training and diet and what that consists of and what limitations, can come just from those two things, just from your genetics alone. Like, if you don't have the genetics like Dorian, then there's no way you're going to look like him when you do take steroids. Well, we didn't know that, right? So what happened, Jerry? Why didn't you stay natural? Well, reality happened, right? So as we get further along, I'm 19 years old now, not now, then. And I'm 205 pounds, and, I'm completely natural. I have no plans on going on stuff. And then I start to notice, like, now the gains are not really coming. If I try to push it, I get a little bit fatter. I'm not really growing new muscle. 205 at 19 at 5'9" was pretty big. So I was a pretty solid 205. And I was already benching, I was literally benching the dumbbells that were 125s for reps, natural, without anything at all. And my diet was pretty fucked up. I'll be honest with you. I eat a lot of shit. I mean, I didn't really understand. I kind of understood macros, but back then macros weren't a big thing. It was about calories and then percents. It's like 60% carbs, 30% protein, 10% fat. It was like all percents, and you had to sit down and figure out how many calories you needed, then break it down into which percents are what, and then break that down into grams, and that's how many grams of protein, fats, and carbs you had. But it was really about finding the calories first and reverse engineering those macros. Whereas now we learn the macros first, and the calories wind up, adding themselves up together and hitting the calories that you need as long as the macros are hit. So I understood, like, diet-wise, that we're going to have to get enough protein, going to have to train hard enough, etc. But really thought that as long as, I don't take gear, then, I could still get there if I train hard. But gear really does all the work for you. That's what I thought. Excuse me. Excuse me. Allergies kicking my ass today. So literally, I thought, man, these guys that are taking steroids, they're not even working out hard. Like, do they even work out? And then you read things like the study, which 600 milligrams a week of testosterone or whatever it was, and they showed the people that didn't work out increased their muscle mass, right? But they don't say that increased it by like an eighth of a tenth of a pound, like this little minute amount that doesn't really count, that literally could have been taken into account that they weren't training with weights, but they're still moving around, being active, in which their body was adapting to those activities, getting better at those activities, and the muscle could be built like that small amount of muscle. So under the guise of steroids do all the work for you, didn't want to be a cheater. Now, get to the point where I can't make gains anymore. Then you start thinking about it. And then a source comes up. Now we can source it. Now you need to make the decision, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? Plain and simple. Am I going to shit or get off the pot? What am I going to do? In my head, I'm already like, well, I already made these plans to look like Dorian without it. Well, those plans went out the fucking window because it's not happening. So you're either going to spin your wheels and get there so slow that you never get there, or you're going to take that next step and see what happens, because I don't know. I think it does all the work for me, but I'll just keep training really hard with it. That way there, I'll get even better gains, right? Like, that's what I was thinking in my head. So, if it does all the work for me, and I train hard, and I eat a good diet, it's going to be even better. Hang on. Then you start taking your first cycle. And then you notice you go in the gym after. For me, it always works like this. It's like clockwork. I take the shot, and it doesn't matter whether it's long-acting, short-acting. Within the first week, I feel it. And I specifically feel it in the gym while I'm lifting weights. I notice that things start to get very light. Any kind of like aches and pains I have start to go away. And everything seems really efficient. Like my movement patterns get better. Everything feels easier. The weights feel lighter. I get less, I don't want to say exhausted, but I get less fatigue from the sets. And it forces me to use heavier weights. So I use heavier weights. I increase the reps. I use heavier weights. I increase the reps. I had dieted down now to 173 to compete when I was 19. By the time I turned 20, I had dieted down to that same weight again. Didn't wind up competing because that was in another class. So you go from teens to juniors, which those was 20 years old to 23. And those guys were a lot bigger. So I wasn't going to make that junior class. It was the natural league too. It was the ANBC. And then I finally said, you know what? Like, why don't I just try this? So I start taking gear at 173 pounds. Now I'm expecting about maybe 15 pounds to gain, right? So I'd be pushing, 190, somewhere around there. And what winds up happening is I keep training the same way as when I was natural. And I go from 173 to 230 pounds in 10 weeks. Now, is it all muscle? No. But the amount of strength that came with it and the amount of size that came with it, everybody around me couldn't believe what was going on. And I'm like, this is unbelievable because I'm training harder. I was like, I didn't even think I could, because you don't know when you're young. You think you train, everybody thinks they train hard. I'm an animal, I'm this, I'm a fucking psycho, whatever. And then you train with somebody who trains harder than you, you're like, oh fuck, there's another level. There's always another level. Unless you've trained with Tom Platz or fucking Dorian or one of those guys, like listen, you're training, but you're not training like them. Like you're not to that level, even though you think you are. But then you start taking gear and you're training heavier, and the focus gets better because now, you go to pick up a bench press, it's not 225, it's 405. You pick up 4 wheels and it wants to push you through the bench. You feel that weight, you bring it down, and you're like, what the fuck? You're like, I'm going to get crushed. And as you go to press it back up, you're like, I can't believe I just pressed this. You're training harder, right? You're taxing the body, you're stimulating the body with heavier weights, more sets. So you wind up training harder. So I found personally, anytime I was on gear, I was training harder than when I was off gear. Matter of fact, most people, when they go off gear, actually lighten the load. They start to cut back on their training. They cut back on the volume because they can't recover and they can't train like they did on the gear. So what does that tell you? It's not the gear did the work for you. The gear allowed you to crank the intensity up a notch and the volume to get faster results because you can train heavier. You can train more often. It makes your body a more efficient machine. But it doesn't do the build muscle out of nowhere like I thought it did. Right? Now, some people that never tried gear think that. I did too. I was there. But I went through life and experienced it and had all these people around me throughout the years experience it. So I know from personal experience what's going on. Now, when you look at it from the point of, you're taking gear, I think that once you take gear and you get gains, and especially if you do it for a long time. So for me, it was 20 years old to about 35 or something like that, 33, however long it was that I was doing this for. Your physique, because you go off here and there, but it's not long enough for your body to really go backwards that far. And the couple times I did go off for a really long period of time, like 6 months or more, my body went backwards a lot. And I chalked it up to like, oh, maybe, my HPTA system is not right, so maybe I should have done a PCT. Maybe, my body composition was changing. I was getting fatter and weaker. So, of course, I'm trying to cut back on the calories a little bit. I'm trying to figure out how to not get fat. So your body starts changing when you stop taking the drugs. However, in your head, right, you're thinking that you're doing all the work because you're training harder. And you're not realizing how much those drugs really do. Because without those drugs, you're not training that hard. Without training that hard, you're not that big. You're not that strong. You don't look like that. So they work hand in hand. So now all of a sudden, you're on drugs, but in your head, you have it like, well, that's not really what makes me look like me. It's because I train so hard. And that's just the icing on the cake, which is technically true. But in your head, when you've been doing it for so long, you haven't really come off for that any long period of time. When you come off for like 3 or 4 years, you realize how much the gear really does for you. You know, you're tricked. Your ego gets away with you because now you're a mass ball of fucking muscle. And your ego is like, I don't want to be considered a cheater. I mean, I've been doing all the work. Look how bad I've been busting my ass. Therefore, the drugs didn't do the work. I did the work. So in your head, you're like, I built this. This is mine. I keep this when I come off. I did this. This isn't the drugs. I'm in here every day. I'm in here fucking training. I'm in here sleeping. I'm in here fucking eating this food. Like, the drugs are just something that helps me recover, which really makes the fucking workouts more effective. So now you have this situation where, you know, you're happy, you're excited, you know, you've created a physique, you're getting progress, you're doing well, and you keep thinking in the back of your head, what happens when I come off? Right? And then you rationalize yourself. Well, I've been training so hard. I've been eating this way. Like, nothing's going to happen. And then you start tricking yourself, be like, well, I've been here so long. I now have a new set point. And that new set point is basically when I'm on gear. So when I come off gear, because I've been here so long, I keep that set point and I stay there. I won't lose this muscle when I come off gear. And then you go off fucking gear into fucking, I don't give a fuck who you are. Don't go on none of this HCG and fucking all this other bullshit that tries to kick your body in. Let your body be natural again. Do it for 3 years. Come off everything for 3 years. And you tell me how much muscle you were able to gain. And I don't mean come off with a TRT dose. I mean get the fuck off this shit. I mean get off of everything. And then you come back and tell me what that stuff did for you. That TRT dose is the biggest fucking scam that people out there use. They go, well, I maintain because I only do TRT now and I'm able to maintain. Well, then why didn't you just use TRT fucking earlier in your career and be a fucking mass monster? Because that's not what you're doing to fucking maintain your physique. You're telling people TRT because you're taking less than the 5 grams you were taking before. You're taking 3 grams now of fucking test a week, and that's not the 5 you were taking, so you think that's a TRT dose. It's very rare that any more than 100 to 200 milligrams max that you get prescribed for TRT, and they have to check your levels to make sure. Go on that for the next 3 years and tell me you keep all your fucking gains. All these fuckers out there talking about TRT. No, you're not. 2, 3, 4 cc's a week. Adding stuff like Deca in there. People have stuff like Oxandrolone and shit in their fucking program. I've even seen people with clenbuterol prescribed by these fucking fake pharmacies or whatever the fuck it is for their TRT doses. And then they go on fucking, oh, I'm on TRT. Listen, you're on testosterone. You're on HCG. You're on Arimidex. You're on T3. You're on clenbuterol. That is not TRT. That's a whole other fucking cycle. And they claim to be on TRT. I'm talking about clean your shit out. Get off every single fucking thing for 3 years. Come back and tell me how much you look like yourself when you're on gear. Come back and tell me that the gear was just the icing on the cake and it didn't do anything for you. Or it didn't do much for you. Come back and tell me that. And I mean, I want to fucking see you drug tested every fucking month to make sure you didn't go back on in between. Because it's such a mental fuck that there's nothing you can do when you come off to maintain that physique. You can't. It's impossible. It's like saying the light will stay on if I flip the switch. No, when you shut the switch off, the light goes off. Okay? That's all there is to it. The electricity doesn't conduct the fucking light. Just like when you take the testosterone, it doesn't increase the protein synthesis when you're not taking it like when you're taking it. Like it makes your body more anabolic 24 hours a day. You recover better. You get bigger. You get stronger. When you take that away, it's like shutting the light switch off. It's the same fucking concept. I know people can't wrap their heads around it because they've heard so many rumors. And I'll tell you guys, listen, those rumors get started by people either A, one, have never taken shit in their whole fucking life. Okay? And they start saying shit like, wow, fucking, it does all the work. It's fucking cheating. Those rumors start from people that have been on it that can't get themselves off of it. Okay? Oh, you maintain everything. Look at me. I've maintained everything. No, you haven't. You're still taking shit. And I know you're fucking lying. You got people out there like, I'm on a TRT dose. Oh, you're on a TRT dose, right? 3 grams of testosterone a week is not a TRT dose. Like, you know, these people lie. They fucking lie. I mean, if you got somebody like Dorian Yates, you know, or Flex Wheeler, or Ronnie Coleman, these people have the best genetics on the fucking planet. Way more genetically inclined to keep the muscle mass when they come off drugs than you are. Kai Green, none of these motherfuckers maintain the mass no matter how hard they train, no matter how hard they fucking diet. They cannot maintain those physiques when they come off the fucking drugs. And you know what? They know it. Most of them just accept it because they're pro bodybuilders. It doesn't matter. Many of those pro bodybuilders, I should say many of them, I'd say maybe half of them, When they're done competing, they go off. That's it, done. No reason to take it anymore. The other guys, they come off and their fucking egos are so inflated that they can't shrink down because now they don't get the attention. Now they're not big and strong. They're not the object of everybody's attention as soon as they see them because they're so big. And they can't get off that. Their egos won't allow it. And they're addicted to it. They're not physiologically, but they're psychologically addicted to being big. Addicted to having all that fucking attention. And they can't get away from it. So therefore, they must stay on the drug because the drugs give you that look. Without the drugs, you don't have that look or the attention that you seek. So it's this fucking merry-go-round that once you get on, but there's two distinct sides. The people that never took gear that think it does all the work on its own. The people that think the gear that take the gear that think it doesn't do that much and it's all their fucking work. Now the truth always lies somewhere in the fucking middle. Okay? That's where we're at. Here's the truth. The drugs work. The drugs absolutely allow you to train harder, longer, higher volume, and still get results and heal. They're amazing for that. That's what they're created for. That's their job. Now, the people that are on, you ain't maintaining that shit when you come off. I don't give a fuck who you are, what you say. Fuck you, you're a liar. If you say that you did that, I want to fucking drug test you 10 ways to Sunday, MHD. All right? I don't fucking believe you because I haven't seen any of the top pros that are better than you ever fucking have that happen. And every single one of them says the same fucking thing. I've asked them to their fucking faces to hear what they have to say because when I was going through it, it was hard. It was very hard to get off that stuff because your body fucking, you've been doing it for so long that your body looks a certain way and all of a sudden you look different and there isn't shit you can do about it unless you go back on. Like, that's just all there is to it. And it gets frustrating because I think that, they're one half, the people that don't take anything vilify and demonize the drugs. Right? How bad they are, they're going to kill you and fucking everything is bad about it. Bad, heart attacks, everybody's going to die. And then the people that really take it and take it a lot, that are addicted to it, downplay it and rationalize it like it's not a fucking big deal. It's like it's drinking a glass of water to them. Right? Because they're 20-something years old and it's not like heroin where you can overdose on it. So they don't see the long-lasting effects of fucking themselves up for another 20 years, right? So they just think it's like, it's no big deal. I mean, if it doesn't fuck me up, how bad could it be, right? I mean, that's just how it is. I put a little testosterone in my body. It's a hormone that's already in there. How bad could that be? And then they rationalize Deca, Winstrol. Well, those are not the hormones in my body, but those are derivatives of testosterone that were created from the testosterone molecule, so there's less side effects. So those are like anabolic steroids, which are technically a derivative of testosterone, which is technically in my body already. So technically, those can't be harmful to me either. And I just fucking shake my head. I'm like, I'm surrounded by morons. Like, that's just all there is to it. It's not their fault. It's these other fucking idiots out there online telling them this shit so that they fucking get it in their head and they're like, it makes sense to me. No, it doesn't make sense. It makes zero fucking sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. And if you went through it, you would understand. And I hope to God people see this video and it absolutely gives them some insight. So at least if they want to go on, they know what the fuck they're getting themselves into. And when they want to go off, they know what they're getting themselves into. Because I'm telling you right now, it is not what both sides think. And when you have to go through it, you wind up in the middle. It really fucks with your head. And unless you know people that have gone through it, it's really hard to get through. So if you're wind up going through this, try to take this video and, just wind up putting it in your archives. And if you wind up, you want to go off or on or whatever the case may be, you watch this video, you might be able to get some insight that, hey, listen, you go on, it's a great ride. It's an amazing ride. There's nothing like it. I would do it again 100%. There's no way that I would go back and do my life differently with this stuff at all. Loved it, had a great time with it. It's awesome. At the same time, it really sucked to give up. It really sucked to walk away from it and give up everything that you did for 20-something years and just walk away from it and watch all your hard work. Right? It's not like you were building a house and when you're done, it stays there until you fucking die. You built this physique. It's gone seemingly like that. And you think about, man, I put 20-something years of work into that. And this is what I have to show for it. As of today, I walk around about anywhere from 205 to 210, which that is exactly the weight that I was when I was 19 years old. Which part of me, goes, dude, you did all that work and you're only fucking as big as you were when you were 19. You wasted all that time. And the other part of me goes, dude, do you know how many people would kill to be the same size they were at 19 years old? Like, I have people that hire me for training and go, wow, I weighed 180 pounds in college. I'd like to get it back down to that. And I'm like, that ship sailed fucking 25 years ago. You know what I mean? A lot of people would like that. And it's one of those things where you don't think about it. But, by using the drugs and continuing to train and eat the way that I did, I lived a lifestyle that allowed my metabolism to not get fucked up like many people's when they get older. I didn't eat a bunch of shit. I didn't fuck myself up. I did some drugs and stuff, but I didn't drink alcohol like everybody else did heavily and stuff like that. And it allowed my metabolism to be at 45 what it was when I was 19. And I consider that a win. I don't know how that happened. It's got to be some kind of genetic thing because I didn't plan it out. It's just where it is, where it's at and where it is. But it was hard to go back to being where I was 19 because I felt like I wasted all that time and I went backwards. And then I realized I got to live a lifestyle by doing that many people dream about. They'll never get there. They'll never be that competitive bodybuilder. They'll never be traveling around with the YouTube channel and stuff like that. They'll never be rubbing elbows with all the pros and stuff. They'll never be doing what I did because I did that when I did it. So all that is over now, and that's cool because I lived that experience, and now I still get to be healthy. I still get to have fun. I still get to go do the things that I want to do. But at the same time, I don't have to wonder, am I going to be able to maintain this? Because now I have a new set point, right? Are the drugs doing more work than I am? I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to think about that shit. I know exactly what the drugs do, exactly what they don't. I know how to use them. I know how to control them. I know how to do everything in between. But the bottom line is, the only reason I know this stuff is through experience and wisdom. And you can gain knowledge. Knowledge is one thing. Reading shit is one thing. Practical application gives you experience. And the more experience you have, during that practical application, you learn how to maneuver or change or deal with things that come up and obstacles. And that is wisdom. Knowing how to deal with the things when they come up and how that whole situation works is wisdom. And when you have, knowledge, wisdom, I mean, at that point, you're pretty much understanding many facets of what's going on, and hopefully explaining this to you guys will give you a little bit of insight so that you don't have to go through it yourself, or when it's time for you to go through it, hey, you're not alone. At least one other person, me, I went through it. You're not alone. BossYouTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BossYouTraining.com is a blog. It said, "You're not alone, bicep. You'll never walk alone." And we are